both a medical and law degree. Mấy cho cô nó là kia cô tàu bao, hai mấy cho cô bao đời mình chỉ tàu bù nữa ha. In his last position, Dr. Choj was a vice president and senior counsel at Tilray Inc., where he counseled senior executives and advised the board of directors on a wide range of legal issues, including supporting in the company as it became the first cannabis initial public offering, the IPO, in the U.S., reaching a peak market cap of $14 billion with a B. He was a lead lawyer in key matters, including intellectual property, marketing, and advertising, commercial agreements, privacy and compliance, technology transfer, mergers, acquisitions, and litigation. Prior to Tilray Inc., Dr. Choj was senior counsel at Privateer Holdings, a private equity firm in Seattle, Washington, where he provided broad legal counsel to numerous companies at various stages of growth. Dr. Choj was also a litigation intellectual property lawyer in a national firm for several years and right here in Minneapolis. Dr. Choj is a former board member of Monk American Bar Association. He graduated from the prestigious Phillips Executive Academy, where he received his undergraduate degree from Harvard. And he was the first student in UMN history to simultaneously attend and receive both his medical and law degree. So, may Oshande, may no Jean, share that the Choj, you had a chance to pay no. Brother, welcome. Choj food, guys. They will Choj food, that is it. Okay, she know that the Choj, okay. So, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. 好似主要係間導師必然我嘅間導師幫我們好似古美超乎托古要基本上是聽到嘅就古我哋啦明睇來戲 Thank you. It is an honor to be here. Good afternoon, friends, families, graduates. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It is a wonderful privilege of mine. First, before I always speak, I always want to say congratulations to the graduates. I know firsthand how challenging, how hard, how many times lonely education can be, but you did it, and you deserve all the praise, all the congratulations that you get today and for many days to come. I know many of you, especially those who got a master's degree, have endured long years, long nights, long days, weekends, going through the coursework just to get where you are today. And so I think it's worth you to take a second to just think about your accomplishments, because graduating from college and graduate school is not easy, and it's something you should be very proud of. I also want to extend my congratulations to everyone here who had a profound impact on their educational journey. We all are who we are because someone loved us. Our family loved us. Our friends loved us. Our teachers and our peers all loved us. They cared for us. They tended to us. And so as we honor the graduates, we must also honor the parents, the aunts, the uncles, the siblings, the cousins, the nieces and nephews. We honor especially Taitza, who nurtured all of us as her sons and her daughters, and who also nurtured my own mom as her older sister and second mother, because our grandmother, their mother, died at such a young age. This is a legacy of Taitza and all known grandmothers here and grandfathers who anchored their family and pushed their children and grandchildren to pursue an education despite never having attained an education of their own. They did so because they believed in education. They had faith in the process, as you could see with all the parents speaking up before me, and they believed that education would propel your children and grandchildren to the next level. Not just financially, not just professionally, but spiritually and morally as well. Today is a celebration of Taitza and all of our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors, who took that leap of faith and pushed their children and grandchildren to get an education. And that's something I'm profoundly and deeply proud of. And I miss her, and I miss all of those who left us, because their imprint on us is forever lasting. When my brother Jean asked me to speak, I told him that it's been over 10 years since I last spoke at a graduation event. At that time, I had just freshly graduated from law school and medical school, and I remember speaking about education at that time. That was almost, I would say, 14 or so years ago. And at that time, when I was speaking, my message to the graduates, to everyone there, was that education was an avenue, a way to obtain skills and training necessary to get a job. And because I myself took that very practical approach to education, I saw it as a way to getting the next step. My speech at that time, I remember when I was speaking then, was a reflection of my life at that time. I was in my late 20s. I needed a job. I needed money. And I needed to feel important. I needed to feel with that time that education gave me the sense of being a productive member of society and a contributing member of my family. And at that time, I celebrated and understood education as a life instrument, a tool to get you to place A from place B. Like all of us here, I grew up Hmong and poor. My parents came to this country with many of you from Laos and Thailand, where they all had to start their lives again. And as a little kid, I remember growing up and watching my mom go to work 12 hours at a factory despite speaking very little English, just so that she could support me and my 7 siblings. And my dad would go to work all day and go to school all night. And because of that, I took a very practical approach to education, because I thought that education was the way out of the ghettos, and that it was the way up the corporate ladder. But now, more than close to 15, 20 years later, I'm in my 40s, not young anymore. I'm old, and I've come to see education in a vastly, vastly different light. I think it's perhaps because I entered this part of my life where I moved from a position of a student to now where, in many ways, I'm in the position of a teacher. I'm a teacher to my 2 young daughters as I help them navigate life as a young person. I'm a teacher in some ways to my mom and my dad as I help them navigate life as a non-English speaking senior in America. I'm a teacher to my clients and the people I work with, and in some ways, and still, I'm a teacher to myself. It is a position that I find myself in, and that I think many of the graduates will soon find themselves in if they're not already there. And it is in this new transition in my life, and with these newfound experiences I've had in the last 20 or so years, my perspective on the value of education has taken much more meaning. I think especially in light of the last 4 or so years where we lost our dear Taitza, many of us have lost members and friends and family from COVID, and I myself have lost 2 of my own young children. And that I now reframe education as not just a means to get to a certain end, but in many respects, education itself is the end. That is the goal. It's not a tool, it's the actual trophy. That's because education, in many ways, not just helps us make money or advance our career, but that there's intrinsic value to education. And that value far outweighs any material wealth or any career advancement. And I remember speaking with my father many times about this, and I think he would agree with me that the the foundational purpose of education, especially for Hmong people, for all of us, is that it enables all of us to live a life of criticality, where we see things through a critical lens, to cause us to question our own beliefs, to unsettle us, to make us uncomfortable, and to allow us to form a life based on real life reflection, deliberation, reasoned judgment, and ultimately, education forces us to live a life with the possibility that we are wrong and that we can recognize our own limitations. It is a humbling experience, but that's why it's so critical, and that's why it's the ultimate and end goal. Education fundamentally, I tell people this, it's so hard because at its core, education is about learning how to die. And I don't mean physical death. I mean learning how to die, because as we question ourselves and the things around us, we start to ask, what does it mean to have a good life? What does it mean to be Hmong, to be human, to be living in 2024? And what kind of person will I become? Education is about mustering the courage to examine yourself, to criticize yourself, to criticize your world, to criticize your society. And there is no growth, no development, no maturity without that kind of self-examination. And when you let certain assumptions or your preconceived notions die as you undergo the educational process, that is a form of death. That is why philosophers have always called education is about learning to die. Because the old you is dying and a new you emerges. A new you is born, and it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Rebirth, renewal, and new moral awakening is the core purpose of an education. Education is about learning to die, because ultimately it helps us learn about what matters in life. Because when we learn, when we challenge conventional thoughts, when we introduce the Hmong perspective to the modern academic and professional discourse, or whatever you do in your career or professional life, that ultimately it's that discussion, that realization that leads you to be free. And it's a rare thing to be truly free in today. Education teaches us that we can be free in our soul, our mind, and our hearts. I remember starting college and starting grad school, and so many people told me that the definition of success was to find wealth, to find money. To be rich in America would be to achieve the highest level of American corporate society, and in turn to let others live vicariously through your success. And we celebrate doctors, we celebrate lawyers, we celebrate business people. And given our history of poverty, I think that sentiment is justifiable. But true education, I think I've come to realize now, after so many years of hardship, deep education teaches us that we shouldn't just strive to be rich. We strive to be free, as Hmong people have always done. Free to do what we love, free to love who we want to love, free to be who God, who our ancestors, who our grandparents and parents destined us to be. Education is not only about finding wealth and success, it's about finding freedom, freedom from poverty, freedom from pain, and freedom from yourself, freedom in all its forms. Education is about the formation of attention so that you can start to finally attend to the things that matter. It's about the cultivation of yourself so that you have a sense of who you are, about the maturation of your soul so that you can muster the courage to think critically, about the courage to love, to stay in contact with the humanity of others, the courage to hope.
他的照个就可多啦，要不是嘛，古上在的这照要路准备， mấy cho cái bao loạn kỹ mà là để cho hạt tới cho lụt chuyển cái hàng bộ quốc cường cầu lên đó là cú sáng sẽ cho mẹ hạt ta khó cứ cú dù rong hạt cú cởi tàu giờ khó tận nên nhà pi nữa ta muốn đầu ra nhà ta luôn nên cú pe nên chú cái cởi là do nên sáng mà ta lên cứ chua tu hạ education is the means to the end đó là nó rồi giờ ít tu lâu nên là đi chỉ sáng lên đó là nên ta education it is the end có sai đấy chưa muốn đầu tu ta chú kế cỡ nó giờ ít chú kế cứ cho nhiều một tàu nó nên rong nó này vậy nô nó này ta chú kế cỡ giờ nó nên rong chú kế cỡ giờ khó rong chú kế cỡ giờ chú kế vàng mình cho có chú cụ bé chỉ là chú kế sẽ yên giờ cả chú kế rong đó là khó nói một sáng của mấy cho một sáng bây giờ này chú kế cỡ chú kế cứ ô cho yêu mua kế yêu pin ô nên nhau ô có yêu bán to yêu được kinh chỉ là chú kế cứ ô tao cứ tao nhang tao sớm đó là chú kế cứ ô cho yêu cái tụi này rong cái tụi này chơi sáng cái chơi lú lụt bán tao lụt còn nó giờ cái linh sát tao cuối linh sát tao giờ cái thọ khổ ha ô cho nó để cho bây giờ tiền nó để cho ya ok giờ mấy sáng nó lên thang nó tao khác biết thang mấy luôn lên thang nó tao nên sắp bán tu cho cái cái cũng khá là mệt cho nên mà bây giờ tôi có give presentation là giờ bây giờ mới complete cho cái graduate tại vì cho cô sáng có cái lu nhớ được nó thì bây giờ thọ bây giờ chỉ là tụi sai giờ cái giờ là bạn to come up here okay cái lu nhớ sáng tỏ okay cú yêu mẹ cháu graduate luôn thì nó là cái luôn pe sau khi là mẹ cháu nãy giờ gì cứ mẹ cho sát cái nó cần đó để bố nó sát cái đó bố chỉ muốn là chỉ bố cho mẹแต่是不会考 complete 不准咩考录考咩哈录测咩但咩招下个咩咋到可能也到到都喏不葫芦的喏要接应葫芦的咩录摸 complete 的咩录多da tới cho thì cái mấy mình được thì nó bé hiện tại luôn ok cú những cái luật thì nó đây nhá nó tiếp theo rồi giờ chỉ là bên sự to ok từ tiếp bé rồi giờ Josephina câu là to sao tao nó từ dưới nó mua Jeffney bao nhiêu thọ từ dưới mong nó giờ mỗi số giờ kinh thọ từ từ cái nó giờ là tí trang thì giờ cứu thọ mỏ He's an athlete, that's why. Very competitive, he said. Even he won't compete up here. Okay, mẹ chẳng được thì nói có ý tại lo cho mẹ chứ. Để cho cái đồ có thể tập lo. Banyak kerja datang.
Anh Jay.
Mấy bọn tôi xem lá. Chai hả? Ok, ocean day, bên tôi thằng ta chỉ nói là ok. À tôi là thì nó là chỉ